I'm not sure if you know, but November is actually the month to pray for the persecuted church. Now, we know we can pray any day, anytime, but this is a time where, as Christians, we can be unified around our prayer to pray for the church globally. And why it's important is because over 365 million Christians face high levels of persecution and discrimination for their faith worldwide. This equates to 1 in 7 Christian globally. Well, Open Doors Canada, which is affiliated with Open Doors International, is a global ministry that has supported and strengthened persecuted Christians in more than 70 countries for over 65 years. Open Doors Canada provides practical support to persecuted Christians, such as food, medicine, trauma care, legal assistance, safe houses, and schools, as well as spiritual support through Christian literature, training, and resources. And today joining us is Gary Stagg, Executive Director, and he's going to be sharing some exciting updates on how they've helped more than 500,000 people in need and distributed over 1.8 million Bibles. Well, welcome, Gary. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So, Open Doors has been working to strengthen persecuted Christians in over 70 countries. How do you see the ministry evolving to meet the needs, really, of increasing persecution that Christians are facing globally?
Well, any ministry that works with persecuted Christians needs to be agile, and so persecution as the world changes, so does persecution. I mean, you can think of things like the digital world. Years ago, we weren't talking about that as being an instrument of persecution, but today, that very much is a real concern for a lot of Christians that are being monitored in countries where they don't have they're being persecuted in severe ways, and they are being monitored. Their cell phones are being monitored, and so on. And so they're that's just one area, but the reality is that persecution is growing, and I wish I could say that things were getting better, but the reality is that they're not getting any better, and maybe as Christians we know that because the closer that we come to the end times, Jesus' return. Um, we're told that things are not necessarily going to get better; they're going to get worse, and unfortunately, many of our brothers and sisters are caught in the crossfire, and so as an organization, we always want to remain agile. We do research, rigorous research, which is published every year in what's called the World Watch List that Open Doors puts out every January. And that basically is, that just gives us an indication of what's happening in the world, an up-to-date, um, journal on what's happening in the world of Christian persecution. And so we're heavily involved in research. It's happening basically throughout the calendar year so that we know exactly what's happening with persecuted Christians. And as a ministry model, we are not an organization that comes in and says, okay, we know what you need, and so here we'll do it for you, or this is what you need, this is what you should be doing. We basically ask them, what is it you need us to do for you? And so we do that. And so that sometimes means that we have to change strategies last minute. Different things happen in the world. We could point to, of course, COVID and how that changed a lot of things for our brothers and sisters around the globe. And so I guess the bottom line is that we really want to remain agile in how we respond to the needs of persecuted Christians around the world so that we can be ready to meet their needs.
Yeah, thanks for that insight. I think sometimes we have a perspective or an assumption as to what persecution looks like. But you're saying, even as culture is changing, so is the ways that Christians are persecuted. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And, I know Open Doors has provided socioeconomic support like food, shelter, medical aid. And in your report, it said to over 500,000 people last year. So can you share any specific example of how this practical help really impacts lives in those areas?
Well, the thing that comes to mind is just in August, I was in sub-Saharan Africa in a country that's actually, there's just a lot of persecution that's happening right now, and the story about sub-Saharan Africa is that the levels of persecution are like we've never seen before in that area. With a country like Nigeria having 14 Christians a day last year that lost their lives because of their faith. I was in a country in sub-Saharan Africa, and we met this girl a couple of years ago, and her family had converted to Christianity, and in that culture, and in her village and so on, that was just a terrible thing for them to do, and so they were ostracized. The family is displaced, and this young girl was quite depressed by all that was going on, and she was being denied opportunities to make a livelihood, to find a job, and so on. So we were able to come alongside of her, and I was so happy to be able to be in her place of business. She has just a small hair salon, beauty salon, where she does different things, and it was amazing to see the smile on her face and to realize that now she's able to support herself. She's able to make money to support her family, and life has really changed for her. We started out there. The way that we met her was through distributing aid, because in many countries where there's high persecution of Christians, even though there's aid going into the country, oftentimes Christians are discriminated when it comes to that aid. And so they're told to go stand at the end of the line, or they're just flatly denied, knowing that, by the time it's all over, they won't receive any of the aid that was meant for the entire population. And so we as an organization focus on the Christians that are being denied that kind of aid, and to make sure that they are being taken care of. So we help them in that way, distributing aid, but also we help them to, find a livelihood, and to be able to set them up so that they can make their own living.
Well, thank you so much for sharing what Open Doors Canada is doing really across the globe, and specifically in this month when we can remember and even pray for those who are being persecuted across the world. So, thank you so much for joining us today, Gary.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Well, for more information on Open Doors Canada, you can go to 700club.ca.